Welcome back, everyone. It's been a little while, but we have a conclusion and an addendum to our last project on the Law of One and the attitudes of mastery. And we're going to be going briefly over the attitudes of mastery, but particularly the responsibilities of mastery. So again, as always, I'm here with my sister Smay.
Hi.
And let's just start with, you had a great idea to begin with. What is the definition of mastery? Which reminded me of a book I read a long time ago by George Leonard. So how would you define what mastery is?
So we have a quote by George Leonard, and I'm getting chicken pimples or goose skin. What do you call it? I don't know. Just reading this. So George Leonard defines mastery as the mysterious process during which what at first is difficult becomes progressively easier and more pleasurable through practice. And there's a little bit more to that. If there is any sure route to success and fulfillment in life, it is to be found in the long-term, essentially goalless process of mastery.
Yeah.
So what
by goalless
means,
how did he put that? It's about the practice itself.
Yeah, it's once you do have a goal and you meet the goal, you've already pushed the goal out twice as much, and it's a lifelong practice that you find joy
in the practice itself.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
You know, it's like, it's not the destination, it's the journey.
Right. Or the destination is the journey. It's amazing how that's such a multi-layer meaning sentence.
Yeah.
Yeah. And how, yes, and like you said, if we perceive things as a race with a finish line, then the mastery perspective is that as we approach the finish line, it will infinitely move ahead. Because it's not about finishing. There's no point when we're done. It's about being present with the practice itself, whatever that may be.
Yeah, I like that. I've experienced sometimes when something works for me and I try to replicate that, it doesn't work. I don't get the same feeling that I got the first time it worked, and I have to find a new way to like reach that feeling of, you know, whatever it is, fulfillment or pleasure. And it's just like you go to a plateau and you got to keep climbing, and it just is a never-ending goalless journey. And
that's beautiful. You know, I almost think of it the same way. I know that you can apply that to your artwork. If you're just churning out the same thing over and over, it grinds the soul out of it. Whereas if it's a new thing, if it's a surprise to yourself in the moment, then it's a gift to the world and yourself. I noticed that too in conversations, particularly in the ones that we've been having and recording. There's a lot of information that we've learned from the past, and I've noticed that I have this tendency to get stuck in like rote memory, like I remembered something concept by concept, and if I just repeat it, it doesn't have the same value than actually sharing it in an improvised way as what it means to me, as it would be uniquely pieced together and worded in an improvisational way out of my mouth, rather than just reciting something that I memorized.
Yeah. Yeah, you do have this amazing capability of retaining information and memorizing that I can't even. Anyway, I have different skills. So we have we'll just briefly go over the 12 attitudes of mastery, and an attitude is a way of being.
Yeah.
It's just a way of living and perceiving the world, and it starts with love, and then we have grace, and this can, whatever it means to you, to be embody these things.
Actually, let's go through and just go with let's go back and forth one for the other and go for the description of them as well.
Okay.
Real quickly.
So love is the recognition of the truth of all oneness, and all oneness is based on the law of one, that we take care of ourselves, we take care of everything around us, and we're all connected. That's accurate?
I love that. So number 2, would be grace. And I love how you worded it earlier. You said that these attitudes are basically lenses by which to view the world as a state of being.
And we get to choose this. This is a free will choice to be able to live in these attitudes.
So number 2 is grace, which is allowing the all oneness to be what it is, regardless of whether it suits you. Also known as living perpetual forgiveness.
Oh my God, I love that one. It's so good. 3 is gratitude, appreciating the all oneness and knowing your aliveness.
Beautiful. And then 4 is reverent respect, acknowledging and giving to the all oneness.
Giving. 5 is responsibility. So this is co-creating with, serving, and being able to respond to the all oneness. Again, the all oneness is both yourself and everyone and everything around you.
And then is it 6?
Yeah.
Is trust. Trust is knowing the power and love of the all oneness. That resonates a lot with me because that's where faith is.
Yeah.
Is trusting that is a function of reality.
Yeah, it's knowing. It's
knowing.
Yeah. And 7 is accountability. And this is being in a state of truth with the all oneness. So that means being true, speaking truth, and expressing truth.
And honesty with self.
Yep. With yourself. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. That comes to like relationship with God source too. You know?
Yeah.
So what is impeccability? 7?
Yeah. 8.
8?
Yeah.
Impeccability. Upholding and protecting the all oneness. So that's being a guardian. That's a very, I mean, all of these are guardian perspectives, but that's in a state of being a guardian.
Yeah. Which we all are. 9 is mindfulness. This is being in the state of loving, nurturing, and being attentive to the all oneness.
Yeah, that's a very mother kind of state of being.
It is, and anyone can embody that too.
I like how you said all of these are guardian perspectives too, because guardian perspective is essentially an agenda. It's a focus. It's a lens of focus. So no matter where someone is coming from, they can be aligned with an intruder agenda, a control or dominion agenda, or a guardian agenda, which these are the very clear perspectives of. Where are we?
10.
10. Fearlessness, which is recognizing the eternal, infinite nature and unconditional love of the all oneness.
I think that one speaks for itself.
Yep. Agreed.
11 is engaged detachment. I remember talking about this one on the last one. This is permitting the all oneness to be without assigning critique, condemnation, value judgment, just understanding the isness of and validating the all oneness. So this is a good practice, a technique that you can put into action is the 3 C's. If you can do this, just try one day.
Okay.
I mean, you can work up to a week.
What are the 3 C's?
The 3 C's are criticism, comparing, and, oh my God, complaining.
Oh, complaining.
So if you can refrain or just simply be aware and catch yourself when you're doing it. Like, it's hard just to like cut that out altogether. But that kind of goes in here. That's critique, condemnation, value, judgment. That kind of goes into complaining.
Because all those things
criticism.
are functions of saying, I'm in resistance to what is right now.
Right.
It's too cold, I'm too hot, I'm too tired, I'm too hungry. Go fix it.
Yeah.
Say, I accept this is happening, and move through it.
Yeah.
And take action. Oh, I love that. Okay.
Yeah.
I've never heard of those 3 C's. That's great. So then we're on to the 12th one. Coolest one and simplest one is joy. Choosing to be the embodied all oneness.
Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I love the term embodied. I keep thinking about how esoteric. It's a simple term, but it's very, very tangible and literal in its meaning, is that we are spirit embodied. We are all these qualities embodied, and that which is external of us in our hologram that we experience is that which we can't embody. But we can experience it as an external projection. And under the law of one, if you are God, everything that you can experience is also you. And by healing the internal distortions that we may have with any difference of anything that we experience, by healing it within myself, I can change my experience.
And healing can be interpreted as many different things, and whatever works for the individual. And it's really just being aware of these attitudes that we can embody, and whatever the opposite of that or the disharmonious attitude is just when we become the conscious observer of our thoughts and our actions, that's healing. Just that awareness, that is healing, and it can be that simple. It feels like, that word is being tossed around, and it's like, what do we do? Put a Band-Aid on it? Like, what do we do?
Sure.
I think it's just awareness of these things. And of course, the 12 responsibilities of mastery is how we put this into action.
How we practice it. That also makes me, it's like a callback to the last video that we did, is that a miracle is literally a change in perspective. So all these attitudes it's 12 miracles that you can practically apply.
Oh, they're 12 miracles. Yeah, it
That's
really
my words,
is.
but yeah.
We all have the free will. Actually, I forget which one of these was the free will to choose what you think. Anyway, so the 12 responsibilities of mastery, we just went over the attitudes. Mastery this is putting into action, while being in those states of being, what you can do to heal. It would be
so
healing.
This is the practical action that can be applied. Would probably the most valuable thing that we have to discuss and contribute, rather than the more technical, detailed, charts and
stories,
things like that
diagrams.
We've been going through. So let's start.
Okay, so you want to start with one?
Sure. So number one is self-actualization, which is defined as freedom from the victim-victimizer blame game and willingness to be accountable for all perceivable manifestations as direct projections of intended learning from the personal consciousness or DNA template. And that kind of goes back to what I was saying before, is if you are God, if I am God, if everything that we can interact with is also made out of consciousness of God's source, then my choice to see that as perceivable manifestations of it directly change my responsibility to it, because I understand they are all projections of intended learning. Even if it might be something that I perceive that I'm suffering through, or I'm experiencing lower emotions rather than elevated emotions like anger, frustration, sadness, and grief, things like that. These are projections of intended learning that are appearing to me because it is my responsibility to handle them.
Yeah, that well said. I had one other thing while you were speaking that came up. If we are God and you are God and we're all of the same source material, when you blame something or someone else for your actions or your feelings or circumstances, you're blaming yourself. Like, what is that going to do? That's a cycle of suffering by choosing to be the victim. Yeah, that's so interesting. 2 is self-sovereignty. And this is the freedom from the need to receive approval or to rebel against any form of external authority, through the understanding that you, as a manifestation of God's Spirit, we have the ability to create personal freedom without violating the spiritual rights of others and without allowing them to violate your spiritual rights.
Yeah, that's some divine boundaries right there.
Yeah, sovereignty, self-sovereignty. People don't like boundaries at first until they know what a boundary is. Yep. And then they respect it.
This resonates a lot with me because I can remember many times, especially when I was younger, and it's still a challenge, is that the desire to be approved of is a lack of my own self-love.
Yeah.
I need others to validate me, and approval-seeking behavior is the opposite of attractive
Yeah.
in general. It repulses people because if I need to be approved of, it means that I am not taking care of myself. In the same way that like rebelling against authority is a reactive process.
Yeah.
Because I don't want to be told what to do. I would rather do the opposite, even if it hurts me. Like if my parents tell me something like, oh, clean your room, do your little responsibilities as a child, I'm like, no.
And if you rebel against that authority, that's a disservice to yourself. And it's also not a kindness.
Yeah. And it's giving our power away.
Yeah. I have something from a book I've been reading.
Which
and it's
one?
just it's Manifest Now.
Okay,
it's just
cool.
It's just a bunch of techniques that you can use. It's positive affirmations. Where attention goes, energy flows. So I've listened to it twice already, and it's just nice to have in the background.
Cool.
It's
I
an
don't know this
audiobook,
book.
so
Okay.
I'm into that. But she explains the idea of when you love yourself and you understand that you're already whole, as you are, you're created with divine fulfillment already, or God source, that you will have no desperation or need to find validation or need approval or attention from others if we know and understand that we're already whole. And that's part of the self-love process. And then you attract what you are, not what you want. And if you are whole, you attract other energies.
I feel like that's really the function of, the law of attraction, as it's popularly said. No one attracts what they want. We attract what we are at all times.
Yeah.
So wanting something new, you must become that which you want to attract.
Yeah.
Be the change, right?
Be the change.
Yeah.
We were talking about, Nate and I were talking about these quotes that we, would hear as kids and young adults. And it's, like the Nike, it was just do it.
Yeah.
Or like, what was another one? Anyway, they're starting to make sense as we have life experiences. Like what our parents were saying is like, oh, now I get it.
Yeah. Oh, I know another one.
What?
Just be yourself. I remember being told that when I was having social anxiety issues, like going to a group gathering or so. Oh, just be yourself. Well, if I don't know who I am, how can I even do that?
How can I do it? Yeah. Yeah, it's hard. Yeah.
But as we've like gone through and had enough experience to understand that these simple distillations into a small sentence of wisdom actually do have meaning. They're no longer vacuous, but without the experience, the knowledge is meaningless.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah. So this whole thing we're talking about could be meaningless, but it's not. There's a lot of intention and energy.
It's very meaningful to me.
Yeah.
So number 3, self-containment. Now, some of these are pretty long here, so we'll just pick through. I'll post the completed version of them, but we'll just kind of read through the most significant chunks. So number 3, self-containment is taking personal responsibility for and realizing that at all times you are accountable for directing personal energies. There is no one thing or no thing that upsets you and thus justifies or validates any personal spiritual misuse of reaction, idea, intention, or action. So then going down here,
I like how it says it is you who upsets yourself.
Yeah.
And it's true, because if we have the authority and free will and choice over our own reactions and how we choose to react, sometimes it doesn't feel like a choice when you're lost in that emotion. But when we practice and we become aware of that power, that empowerment to choose how we react, then we realize that it's yourself that upsets yourself. No person is going to make you angry.
Right.
You choose to be angry.
And someone can come up and say, you're an awful person, you're terrible, you're this, you're that, whatever label they have. It's my responsibility to interpret that and accept it or reject it. And if I don't agree with them, if I'm not needing their validation, then it's like, I wonder what they're upset about.
Yeah.
Can be the interpretation rather than, this person told me something that hurt my feelings.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's really
The
interesting.
self-contained individual recognizes that at all times the freedom of interpretation exists, and thus a negative experience and its associated disharmonic energies of upset feelings can only exist as a personal interpretation of events.
It's our personal interpretation. Yeah.
Self-containment comes when one recognizes that the direction of personal energies, whether they be physical, emotional, or mental, and mental includes ideas, beliefs, labels, and interpretations, whether they're conscious or subconscious, this is an attainable level of personal mastery and exists as an implied responsibility that comes with the gift of free will choice.
I like how implied is italicized.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like this is a suggestion for you to pay attention to.
Yeah. I love how gentle all these suggestions are, because it's saying self-containment is a thing that you can choose into. This is one of the responsibilities that you can try on and see how it fits. Not you have to do this.
Yeah. And I appreciate the idea that when we choose to allow another thing, another person, another event, another idea, when we choose to allow it to disrupt us or to, we give away our power.
Yeah.
And that, yeah.
That's really common in our
giving away
modern
power.
day media cycles, whether it be political, movies, or TV. They're, especially if they're focused on drama and violence and things like that, it's oftentimes, it will upset people. It's very much designed to do that.
Yeah, online
so that
forums.
people with poor self-containment will be upset about something that's totally outside the realm of their responsibility anyway, other than managing their own reaction to it.
Yeah, I think it was Effie. We're going to mention Effie again. She said that recently she heard an alternative word to the word triggered is to become activated. And it kind of...
I like that.
Yeah, I like that better because it kind of gives you... It's like something's activated for you to pay attention to rather than like triggered for you just to like lose your shit.
It removes
you
the
know?
negative implication of it too.
Yeah.
You triggered me! Well, no, you're allowing yourself to be triggered.
No, or activated.
Yeah, you're activated.
Activated.
Yeah.
What are you going to do with that?
I'm feeling activated. Pay attention. How to handle it. Yeah, I like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The more responsible you become, the greater freedom and personal empowerment you will know.
Yeah, it's
Love
beautiful.
it. And then number 4 is self-discipline.
Okay.
This is accepting the responsibility for directing those personal energies toward rather than in opposition to the outcomes you desire to experience. What else? Oh, I need my other page.
Toward rather than in opposition to. So rather than fighting against something.
Was that number 4?
Yeah.
Yeah. Part of spiritual mastery entails teaching ourselves to be consciously diligent in observing our own minds. So I love how that's a follow-up to self-containment, because that's this conscious diligence in observation. We are observing our minds, emotions, and physical body talk. I like that. So that we may employ conscious redirection of subconscious shadow energies that run on autopilot. So if we learn to catch ourselves when negative thought patterns or emotions run through us, then that moment of recognition reclaims that like uncontrollable energy, or what feels like uncontrolled energy.
You know, I like this term physical body talk. It's not really explained, but I'm taking that to mean 2 things. Not only what I tell myself about my body, particularly if it's not enough, or I need to lose weight, or I don't have enough muscle, or whatever the thing is, but it also means physical body talk. I think of like the posture that I'm holding. So if I'm slouching, or if I'm walking around trying to be invisible, that's a totally different physical body talk than if I'm standing up straight, making eye contact, and moving forward with confidence.
Yeah.
Right?
Yep. I love that. And also the the physical body and taking care of yourself, just, are you getting enough rest? How are you eating? Are you hydrating? That's super important with how it connects with emotions and every other like upstep of your energies. And it helps you manifest. Like if you're if you're clear and you're clean and you're like, feeling strong in your body, then that is going to have a ripple effect on everything else.
Yep, I totally agree.
Yeah.
That's also a side effect of depression or not eating right. Because I've known several times in my life where it's a negative downhill spiral, and then if I don't have the motivation to nurture and feed and hydrate myself, then everything seems out of control, and playing victim is just a default nature.
It's so hard.
Because the self-responsibility to manage my body and my own biochemistry and keep that healthy keeps my mind healthy as well.
Yeah, and without having experienced that, you would not fully understand it.
Yeah.
Yeah, experience is important. And that's also in the ways of being.
The attitudes.
Yeah, it's a kindness and it's a self-love to be kind to your body. Sometimes we're just like this bag of bones,
Right.
floating through space, but it's actually quite important.
What we read recently was that function that it's very common for patients when they see a doctor where they either won't even get their medication, they won't follow the instructions or the guidance of the doctor, whether it be getting good sleep, feeding yourself well. However, most people are highly likely, if it's their child or their pet or someone else they care about, to follow it to the T. But we often have this lack of our taking care of ourselves when we're more likely to bend over backwards for someone else. It's like a distorted nobility thing.
It is. And I also feel like it's a rebellion thing, rebellion against authority.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. When it comes to me, you can't tell me what to do.
Yeah. I do whatever I'm going to do. Yeah. Which, this is interesting. The next one is self-love.
Self-love.
Which I was just mentioning.
Yeah. Number 5. Perfect. So self-love is our own responsibility to love and nurture ourselves through the limitless gift of divine spirit that moves through us at every moment. That's beautiful. Genuine love must come from within and can only be gained through genuine spiritual connection to the eternal God self and its inherent connection to all creation. If we seek love on the outside in order to fulfill a personal loneliness or lack within, we enter relationships as energy vampires.
Yeah. Because
we're seeking to fill the void within rather than filling that up and coming from a place of giving.
Yeah. I love where it says, you can go into the world seeking those to whom you can give this love rather than seeking those from whom you can get love. So if you're full, then you can give that, and that can come right back to you.
Yeah.
Just to be mirrored.
And this is truly one of those very difficult to describe in most cases functions that religions serve in most communities of faith throughout the world. Even though the source of worship and power is external, it's like an externalized, objectified God that you worship and like accept into your heart kind of thing, speaking of westernized religions. But that function of faith serves a self-love function, hopefully, even though the distortions are often filled with shame, like, oh, please cleanse me, God, external of me, rather than internalizing that, which is the more esoteric truth function. But really, having that faith is what gives someone the capability to give love to others.
Yeah.
So
it's not all bad.
It's not all bad.
It's we can find meaning in so many different facets. And for some people, that might be the religion they're practicing. And then really it's just being aware and observing of what serves you. Yeah. And what empowers you and what doesn't.
And I know we brought this up before, but one good reminder is that according to these resources, every spiritual teaching in the world came from this information.
Yeah, so they're going to have pieces of it.
Changed and distorted over time. So this is back to like what it actually is supposed to mean.
Yeah.
And then closing out the self-one love. When love is approached through self-love, the motivation to give joyfully, knowing that anything you might need can be made manifest through the love of the active God source that you carry inside yourself. Self-love is a responsibility of spiritual maturity.
That's huge. It's a responsibility of spiritual maturity. So if you're wanting to make changes, if you're wanting to find your purpose, like, this is a responsibility of spiritual maturity. That's so great.
Yeah.
So 6 is spiritual integrity.
Mm.
And again, these are not attitudes. These are like applications. Responsibilities, yeah. So spiritual integrity, I guess I'll read the first sentence. It is our absolute responsibility to choose to act with spiritual integrity at all times. There is no excuse to knowingly violate the spiritual rights of others, regardless of how poorly they may react to you. And I noticed that instead of saying treat you, they are reacting to you. So that's bringing empowerment to that person. And it's kind of a nonviolent communication thing. Spiritual integrity requires that we begin to look at what we are really doing in the way we live our lives. So, like, for example, this is the one that kind of resonated with me, as been the youngest of 4, coming from a conservative household, and have been, a people pleaser for majority of my life. Is, do you tell people what they want to hear in order to gain their approval and support, even if it's not fully true and does not reflect your personal needs or feelings? Like, that one resonated with me. And there's a bunch of examples that, of course, you're going to post that, right?
Yep.
On the slides. Something else that stood out is, if you do not possess a sufficient amount of spiritual integrity in your consciousness, neither will your DNA template. So literally, if you want to, ascend or heal that, your passage through any Stargate requires a sufficient amount of chemically encoded spiritual integrity of consciousness. So if you want to fucking stay here forever and just do the samsara over and over, and great. But if you want to do the work, it's your responsibility to have spiritual integrity.
That's interesting too, because what that implies is that spiritual integrity is not some lofty concept that we've manufactured as human beings.
Basic.
It is a function of physics, because it relates directly to your energy and your bioenergetic template, really.
So, you can literally change your DNA with the choices you make. And if those are integral choices. Some of those are like, do you want to give yourself an excuse for unethical behaviors, such as tax loopholes and, taking money from the register because the owner of the store is an asshole, whatever your perception is, are you making choices with integrity? It's simple shit.
Yeah, that's a good one. Oh, here we go. Number 7, appreciation.
Is long.
This is a big one.
I love this.
Our present society continually teaches us to want more, to need more, to be more, to do more, etc. We are constantly influenced to perceive what is lacking in order to motivate us to buy more, work more, pay more taxes, and be good little consumer sheep. Very rarely do we think about all we do have, beginning with the gift of life and mental free will choice. And this goes back to that book we read, The Soul of Money by Lynn Twist, where just I love the simplicity of the statement. What you appreciate expands. And that's, ever since reading that, I've heard that in a multitude of different expressions throughout my life, right? Is that what it brought me back to is a daily gratitude practice. Just every morning, I'll write down things I'm grateful for, and every night. And it completely reorients how I'm thinking that day, because I'm constantly appreciating and pouring my love and focus into what I do have. And then that grows, whether it be my relationships, my opportunities, my just experience of being present, for example, and I'm less focused on all that which I do not have in my life.
Yeah. Yeah, I did that yesterday and this morning. Yesterday before I went to bed, I was like, I'm going to pick 3 things that I'm grateful for. And I ended up listing like 20.
Yep.
And then this morning, I was grumbling about something I didn't want. And then immediately turned it into things I was grateful for. I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I did it. I was aware of that behavior and then changed it and then felt so much better.
Yep.
Like I immediately took myself out of suffering just with a simple practice of thought change.
And then here we'll go into down a little bit. So the opposite of appreciation is feeling that we are owed something. No one, because owing, that's a victim state. It's like my appreciation, my gratitude is someone else's fault. So they therefore owe me this. So no one owes us anything. If we feel we are owed, we are entertaining lack consciousness, and a void within the self is being recognized. So that would be another example of appreciating the lack from that focus. And then the lack will expand if that's where our focus is.
I like this, if we give to another in order to receive for ourselves. So it's like, I'm doing this because I expect something in return from you or from whomever, if it's your parent, your spouse, your lover, your friends, and the other person doesn't pay back what you expect to receive, you feel cheated or taken advantage of, or that just gets you in the victim mentality. But these situations emerge in our lives as lessons to teach us that giving should be done for giving alone.
Yeah, you were actually bringing this up yesterday. When you approach the world through the chosen, genuine filter of giving, you are in effect being an electrical transmitter, sending energy to the world around you. When you release electrical energy in this way, you become more magnetic, as the sending out of energy creates magnetic vortices within the diotic grid of your Kathara anatomy. The magnetized diotic points then draw in more universal energy supply at a higher frequency and the quality of the expressed energy to refill the energy void created by the giving. So this is another concept I've heard people talk about in like a self-growth seminar, is that often, so I'm naturally an introvert. I think many in our family are naturally introverted. And so the social anxiety I used to experience was something that was like an energy tax to be giving energy because I wasn't doing it from the right place. Where if I am genuinely interested in others and giving from my self-love, from that core of God's source within me,
your desire,
it's actually bringing me energy back in reciprocity to be in a giving state. Rather than it's a mask I'm putting on to pretend that I'm enjoying it, and then I have a net loss when I go home, and I'm like, oh, that was such a draining social event, rather than I'm genuinely so happy to see these people and give without condition to them.
Yeah, but then this is like, you feel like people or the situations are the cause of your anxiety when really it's you. It's not that I'm blaming
Which goes back to self-containment.
It's self-containment. Yeah, we can choose how to react. Yeah, I love that. Fill my cup. Diotic grid, what is that?
So that's the nodes on the Kathara grid. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So a diotic node on the grid is related to a chakra, a DNA strand, a level of consciousness, etc.
That's so great. So whatever you give out will return to you amplified. That's manifestation again. And that goes to the opposite. If you are not appreciating, or you're coming from a state of unharmonious attitudes, you're going to get more of that amplified.
Yeah. Exactly.
And that can come in the form of sickness, illness, injury, sadness,
grief, anger, frustration. Any non-elevated emotion can be amplified in the exact same way. Yeah.
And to wrap up, there's 2 highlighted things I wanted to say about.
Sure.
This one is it says very simply, appreciate what you have. And in all caps, it says, love it. Find perspectives through which the joy can be known. And know that in the act of genuine appreciation itself, you will lose the powers of you will set loose, not lose them. Yeah. You'll set loose the powers of manifesting more of what you desire and less of the illusion of lack. And then the other one that stood out to me in here, say thank you to the God source more often to help yourself remember what things you have to appreciate. And many more of the kind will be sent along your way. And that's just kind of redundant in saying that what you put out will come back amplified.
Yep.
And you can go on to 8 since I finished up.
I think I did that one. You can do patience.
Okay. So number 8, the 8th responsibility is patience. This to me means don't focus on how or when your desires are going to come, or if you have a goal or a plan, like in 1 year, this is my goal and here's how I'm going to do it. Maybe just what's been working for me is visualizing and imagining how it would feel to be that person, to have that thing, to have my goal be a reality, and don't worry about how or when. And that's the patient is God source has its own schedule, is what the first sentence is there. So I sometimes have these expectations and I get frustrated where like, I've been working really hard. I expected this to happen sooner. And then when I release that and I just trust that it's on its way, like it's literally on its way, then it like arrives shortly thereafter when I just like take an exhale and just be present throughout my day. And then it arrives. Yeah.
That's what that term divine right timing.
Divine right
timing. If that is not right now, there is a very good reason for this. So that's patience in that. There's also a concept about probability vectors. So anything we can experience, there's multiple probabilities of the future that we can go into. And sometimes if we're on one that is unpleasant or that we're trying to shift, it means that a critical mass of energy has already been put through that. And, like being depressed, for example, and then making a change. I'll put that in relevance to my life. So after the critical mass has been put into a certain time vector, the only way to get through it is to experience it.
It came down the pipeline because you gave it to yourself by experiencing that. And it just is like, because we're so dense here, things take a little more time to like trickle in, trickle down.
And then to change that experience, sometimes the effort needs to be put in to build critical mass. And so having the patience and trust that it will occur just can take a little bit of time, which is why patience is so important.
That's why the present moment is so important, because what you're doing and thinking and goal setting right now, it's the critical mass is building. It's on its way.
Yeah.
So if we choose to be feeling shitty, then shit's gonna come down that pipe a little bit later.
And then it must be experienced at some point.
Yeah, because you asked for it.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not in that sense. It's not like you're asking for it. It's like that's what you what you called in.
Well, technically, if you consider every thought a prayer, it is basically building what the future probability will be.
Wow, so that's so crazy to think about how powerful each moment and each thought is.
And fundamentally, that is the value. That is one of the core implications of studying all of these teachings, or really any spiritual teaching, is to realize the incredible power that we all have as human beings, where we're actually co-creating reality with every single nanosecond of thoughts we entertain. So to not be critically evaluating and releasing the thoughts we don't want to experience is part of our responsibility. And building in all that we do want to experience it's a second by second thing that we can choose to take responsibility for or not.
Yeah. I like how the awareness of what's going on and kind of like understanding, because we can make things happen unconsciously and like have no awareness and just feel like we're floating around. So I have an example of when I moved from Colorado to Orcas Island. We were in a rental and we were looking for a house to buy, and I dyed my hair blue. I'm not sure. It was pretty. It's pretty blue. And then I went over to my sister-in-law's mom's house or something. She lived nearby. And I was looking on Zillow, and I was admiring her mom's like A-frame windows in the main living room, cooties. And I was like, I love those windows. I'd like to have a house with windows like that. And I literally went on Zillow, and a house had popped up on the market within, the hour. And it was the same color as my hair, and it had those A-frame windows. And I was like, oh shit. And I called the lady, a realtor, and I was like, hey, I want to view this house as soon as I can. And she didn't even know it was on the market. She was like, what are you talking about?
Wow.
And then the next day, we put a full price offer on it, and that's the house that we got.
Wow.
And Tess, my sister-in-law, said, wow, you're a quick manifester. And I was like, what do you mean? What's manifesting? What does that mean? So I was doing something.
It was unconscious.
It was unconscious. Yeah. And then now knowing what's going on is like, oh, if I have this desire, and imagine that I was in a house that had, so I knew the feeling of what it would feel like to be in a house that had those windows, and that's what I think catapulted it to happen so quickly.
Yeah, that's an innate ability right there.
Yeah.
And, that's another thing, what we're doing, all of this is basically awareness training to become conscious. So we can be competent at something just by
naturally
maybe having good parents, good experiences as a child. We learn some good habits through that, right? There's also distortions and traumas, but to get out of those, we need to become conscious of what we're doing. And then there's conscious competence that comes from incompetence. And then after that, through enough training, it's unconscious competence to just be following into that.
Oh, that's good.
Because we made a change of how we
unconscious competence.
Yeah.
Love that.
And then we'll do the end of this one. Patience is a virtue that reflects our comprehension of the nature of universal order. Much in the same way that the law of one is said, the cure to evil is through education of the law of one. Because by understanding that you are God and everything is a manifestation of God's source, by sheer comprehension of that fact, it changes the relationship that one has to everything in the universe and everything they experience. So in that regard, patience is a virtue that reflects a comprehension of universal order as well. So let's do kindness here. This is a big one for me. Kindness is a birthright, but one that is quite often overlooked and misunderstood. When we approach the world through genuine kind-heartedness, sending love and respect to all of creation in honor of the God force that lives within all things, we are again transmitting electrical energy of a higher frequency that will follow the mechanics of universal physics to bring more of like kind back to us through universal backflow. Kindness is a gift we must first give to ourselves in order to have it to give to others. So
I got activated by that
when
I first read that. Kindness is a gift we must first give ourselves. We have to be kind to ourselves, and that voice in our head is...
That goes back to the self-love responsibility, where it's impossible... Yeah, like we were saying before, just be yourself. How can you be yourself if you don't know who you are? In the same way, the biblical parable, love your neighbor as yourself. If you don't love yourself, how can you love your neighbor? That's why a lot of people, they're blaming their neighbors because they're not taking their own self-responsibility.
Yeah, that's the very next sentence. Kindness implies being conscientious, concerned, and caring towards the needs, feelings, and desires of both the self and others. And to express this concern and caring in action, attitude, and intention. So it's not just what you're thinking. It's your way of being, your attitude, and what you're doing, your actions, and also non-actions are actions too.
Yes, not doing what you feel the impulse that you know is something you want to do is exact the same infraction as doing the wrong thing.
Yeah, or not following through. Like I've had many times where I'm like, oh my God, I want I want to give this person a gift and write them a thank you card.
Mm.
And then I don't follow through in the action of doing it. I thought a kind thought, but they never received it. So I had no idea. So, and not doing something of kindness is kind of unkind to myself.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. There you go.
Yeah.
And then the last sentence in this is another comprehension thing. When we treat all things with kindness, we demonstrate that we acknowledge their intrinsic value as manifestations of God's source. And you will often find God's source lovingly returns the favor.
I love how this is all just saying over and over and over, what you put out comes back.
Mm-hmm. What you get is what you get.
Yeah, that's one of those sayings we heard as a kid, and we're like, whatever, what does that mean, Well, now we kind of understand.
You need to watch what you choose, what you give is what you get. Some are lacking intellect in the quest for a check.
Yeah.
Is it love or respect? Does the subject get you vexed? That's a Jurassic 5 lyric.
I love it.
So let's do conservation now. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is global, and it's local. Conservation is a form of respect and appreciation for God's source energy in all of its expressions. From conserving and protecting our natural resources, to being attentive to the needs of our bodies, to using the energies of our words and actions with gentle conservation, by which we freely use what is needed, but not more. So, Nate, I remember you saying years ago, I forget the conversation we were talking about, but I think it had to do with, how we are abusing natural resources. And you were like, well, these things are here for us to utilize, but not to abuse. Yeah. So like oil, petroleum products.
Plastics is a great example.
Yeah.
They aren't inherently bad on their own, but the way that they are manufactured is to intentionally make them have no longevity. Like printers is a good example. Modern day printers. They're designed to break after a year. And there's something, I don't know the exact amount, but it's a staggering amount of volume of landfills, something like 15 to 20% is printers and printer cartridges.
And diapers.
Because they're designed to not be reusable. Diapers too. Yeah,
that's wild. Anyway.
And this refers to our own personal energy as well.
Yeah.
Where we're directing our energy and not wasting it is like a divine focus.
Yeah. Are you binging Netflix?
Right.
Or are you,
And nothing wrong with watching a show.
Oh, no.
But if it's the only thing one is doing and the main source of their productive energy effort that's siphoning it off into the void, that's a problem.
Yeah. Like it's good to be informed by news sources, but if you're doing that for the majority of your day on your phone, that's it's an energy siphon. The opposite of conservation. There is truth in the old saying, waste not, want not. If everything we perceive in our hologram of life is understood to be manifestations of God's source, we might all employ a bit more respect, appreciation, and conservation towards the use and applications of the energies of the divine.
Yeah.
Oh, that's such a good reminder. Is like when we get in this attitude of just like, oh, everything's so wasteful, and just be conscientious.
A good example too, I mean, this is a very popular example when a child doesn't eat all the food on their plate, or I can interpret that when I don't eat all the food on my plate, or I put too much food on my plate. Therefore, it's wasted. Well, if I'm respecting that as value and manifestations of the divine, perhaps I'll just put enough food in my portion that I can handle, and not just go to a buffet and like get all gluttonous and then be unable to eat it because my stomach isn't big enough.
Yeah, it's a good analogy, and also it's not an analogy; it's an actual action.
Yeah, but I particularly like how I'm using my energy on a daily basis, because if I'm waking up worrying about all the things that are outside of my control, that is literally just freely giving my
You're
energy.
a battery, so you can be
Yeah.
operating at 10%,
Yeah.
and the rest of the
That's
90%.
being a battery in the matrix.
Yeah, serious. Like what kind of operation do you want to be on low battery mode and your lights dim? You
Yep.
know, and you're
Yep.
well, it's conserving your battery.
Yeah.
Or do you want to be operating at a higher percentage and being able to just like amplify the energy that you're putting out? And where attention goes, energy flows. I love that saying. I've been saying it like every day.
That's
recently.
a good succinct one too.
So, and it says God's source continually recycles its energies for the rebirth of new expression. And that's once again just another way of saying,
which is also the imprint of an eternal coded system. It's constantly renewing itself.
I'm highlighting that one. God's source continually recycles its energies for the rebirth of new expression.
Okay, on to 11.
We're almost done.
Cooperation and diplomacy. Existence is and always will be a co-creative endeavor. We must be willing to allow other beings the fulfillment of their needs and desires if we hope to have fulfillment of our own.
That's so hard because sometimes we feel that other people don't deserve the happiness that we want.
And the intruder, authoritarian, control dogma, thought pattern that is imposed on human beings is that for you to succeed, you must take from someone else. That everything is a win-lose situation. Everything is a fight. Everything is a struggle. When that's actually a lie that is perpetrated and that we have purchased that lie. Many of us human beings have. Because if you look at our societal models, removed the law of one from it, that is what is left. Is that it's a scarcity mentality.
There's not enough money. There's not enough food. There's not enough resources.
Yeah.
There's not, but there
which is not true.
It is not true.
Yeah. Technically, I've the United States itself, we have enough land that we could grow enough food to feed the world. It's just, the government pays farmers to not farm a bunch of their land because it would ruin the stocks, the economy of like selling corn and things like that. So if we all, and that goes back to a Buckminster Fuller quote.
Yeah, that's what
that
I was
I really
gonna mention.
liked. It was, what was it? About win-win situations. It was something about, I'll just paraphrase what it was. I don't know exactly what it was. But we have the ability at this point in time as human beings to create situations where we both win together. And if we can train the world to think that way, then we will radically transform the earth, because nothing has to be anymore a situation where someone has to lose for me to win. We can all win together.
That's cooperation and diplomacy. Like we have to cooperate to be able to want everyone to win and to respect that other beings deserve the fulfillment of their needs and desires if we hope to have our own fulfillment known. I love that second sentence.
Here we go. It is now highly feasible to take care of everybody on earth at a higher standing of living than any have ever known. It is no longer it has to be you or me. Selfishness is unnecessary. War is obsolete. And it is a matter of converting our high technology focus from weaponry to livingry.
Livingry. That's what I want to do.
And then for the rest of, we might not always agree with the intended creations of others, and we have a right to our points of view. Diplomacy can be a bridge between forces of opposition through which effective actions or decisions can be reached to mutually support each perspective. We can learn to agree to disagree respectfully, so the spiritual art of co-cooperative co-creation can progressively evolve to higher levels of expression.
Yeah, that's so ingrained in our culture, and this is just the distortions. It's like, I win or you win. We can't work together.
Yeah.
Like, it's either I protect my land and my people and kill yours, or,
Yeah.
or that's the...
That is really one of the ways to point out if it's a distorted mode of thinking that comes from that scarcity mindset. If the question posed is either or, it's probably a black and white, very myopic and very childlike, small way to view the world. Because every either or question I've ever heard of, it's both and is actually the question itself. No matter, is it either this or this? You know, is it evolution or creation? Well, it's both. It's always both and.
Yeah.
You know, is it right wing? Is it left wing? Is it, you know, whatever. You can pose any dichotomous extremist model of any perspective, and the answer and the definition of wisdom is the balance in between, where the either or is considered.
Hey, Buddha.
Hey, Buddha.
Yeah, it's in every, you know, comic book movie as of recent, is like fighting the forces of evil,
Yeah.
and they have to like kill in order to or the lesser of two evils. Anyway, well, we're on number 12.
Yeah,
And
12, go for it.
It's
This one
perfectly
is simple.
Yeah, it's perfectly short and simple. 12, the 12th responsibility of mastery is sense. Learning to identify and appropriately apply both common sense and the uncommon sense of spiritual knowing will allow us to establish the greatest balance of energy expression within all aspects of our lives.
Beautiful.
So common and uncommon sense.
And uncommon sense, we have another recording we have yet to post on the 12 human senses. The 5 that we know of and the 7 that are yet as unknown.
That was
to
a
modern
good
day
good
humanity.
recording. That's
So
one to
we'll
look
post that
forward
after
to.
this one, but that directly dovetails into how we're ending this one here.
I love it.
And then I have a couple of quotes here that I think are relevant that I'd like to bring up. And one of them is, again, a Buckminster Fuller quote, which, like I said before, what the presentation of all this information is, and one of the reasons why it's called the Freedom Teachings, as it's popularly labeled, is the sense of freedom that comes with the comprehension of understanding what the teachings mean.
The comprehension and application.
And application, yep. So a Buckminster Fuller quote is that we never change things by fighting the existing reality. To change something, we have to build a new model that makes the existing model obsolete.
Yeah.
So this is basically presenting a model of how to think, approach, and adjust our attitudes and beliefs such that it obsoletes the old model of having to fight.
And it's not popular at first
Yeah.
until people
Yeah.
experience it.
Well, it's challenging.
It
It
is
requires
challenging.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's challenging the norm of what culture is currently.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And just because, I'm going to go back to Lynn Twist in The Soul of Money, where she said, "That's just the way things are," is one of the most poisoned patterns of language and thinking that we have, because it's basically absolving one of all responsibility to make a difference and shift that attitude, even within oneself. So to say that's the way things are is negating the follow-up, which is, it doesn't mean it has to be that way
Yeah.
anymore.
I'm going to say a judgment.
Sure.
It's cowardly.
Yes.
To
Yes.
just accept the way something is the way it's always going to be. And you're right. It's absolving you of the responsibility to challenge yourself to grow and change it. Because everything can be healed. And that's why we are here.
Yep.
To do the work to heal.
And that is fundamentally the core of that is it is my responsibility to heal that within myself. And then like another, it's kind of a Zen Koan quote, is that once we transform our own perspective and our own understanding, and if we want to give that to someone else, if like the second responsibility, which is not needing external approval of that, if you are moving through the world and have a gift to give someone and they don't want the gift, well, who does it belong to? It belongs to me. So there's no, if someone doesn't want to accept the value that I have to offer, it has no bearing on me whatsoever. Because I'm still the walking, living, present gift. I am the walking teachings of the Law of One embodied.
Yeah.
And it has no bearing on me whether or not someone else is even open to receiving that.
Yeah. Or did you ask them if they even wanted a gift?
Right?
You know?
Exactly. Some people don't. Yeah.
Some people don't want gifts.
And then one more quote. I think this has been one of my favorite quotes. It's from The Prophet by Khalil Gibran. And the quote is, "And to the open-handed, the joy for one who shall receive, or the search for one who shall receive is joy greater than the giving.
Ah.
So when we walk through the world with open hands and have value like this to offer, which everyone does in their own way, it doesn't matter how small or how big it might be, in whether it might be an externalized like material wealth, spiritual wealth, relationship, whatever it may be, knowledge, everyone has that. And really the seek for someone who will receive that is the joy that is greater than the giving itself.
Yeah.
Because that's being received is the ultimate acceptance and the ultimate expression of love.
But it's
that's
not
how
a need for
relationships-
approval because
It's not a
you're
need.
giving and then,
Yeah.
and that's being received. Yeah, I love that. I also, Nate, we were talking and I realized that throughout all the religions or religions, that these values, these attitudes, these responsibilities, whatever you want to call them, ways of life, ways of being, there's pieces of them everywhere. And in indigenous culture, they're quite alive. And specifically in Hawaii, there are a couple of Hawaiian words that align, that align exactly with these concepts. Their Hawaiian values like aloha means essentially always live with love. And then there's the word ohana, which we typically is family, but what it means is we are all connected. And that's
I
like
didn't know
the
that.
law of one. Yeah.
Wow.
Their kuleana is take responsibility, like literally, like take responsibility for.
I didn't know these were actions. I've always heard kuleana used as just the word responsibility.
They
So
are
these
actions.
are statements in practice.
Yep. Mahalo, we always interpret that as thank you. It means live in gratitude.
Wow.
Malama is tend to the needs of others and the world, and that has to do with kindness, self-love, conservation, all of the things that we
That's
just talked
awesome.
about. And then there was one other that I really liked. Lokahi is seek unity and oneness. Pono is really good. It means live righteously.
Yeah. I've always heard pono as meaning the right thing in the right place at the right time.
That's good.
Like
I like
divine
that.
right timing.
And then kupa'a is stand firm.
I love these. This is a wonderful example too, because the book we recently read, The Book of Light, was a wonderful...
Bowl of Light?
Bowl of
Yeah.
Light, sorry. Yeah. Was a really great example of how indigenous teachings and knowledge are the preservation of the freedom teachings from the ancient past. Just been passed through oral tradition for thousands
And maybe
and
preserved
thousands.
better.
Preserved
through
better.
Oral tradition.
Yep.
And with connection to ancestors. Like they have this deepening connection with nature and their ancestors that I believe in Western culture, in America, that's been severed.
Yeah.
And it's hard to remember to bring it back, but it's been alive. It's been alive in these cultures.
And in my experience, a lot of the Western, well, you could say a lot of the newer forms of religion that exist, if you want to put them that way, have a tendency in their distorted nature, as they're popularly known, to disregard indigenous knowledge and things from the past. Like those were misguided mythologies by people that were much less intelligent, which is a big mistake in my opinion.
Yeah.
Because the more mature way to respond to all of it is to not accept and reject. It's to integrate and take the value from any of it.
Yeah.
Because there's value to be found in any form of spiritual teaching anywhere. It's just important to take what works for you and leave the distortions behind.
Yeah. And we all have that ability of discernment.
We all have that ability.
It's there if we want to do the work, and it's
Yep.
hard work.
Anyone relying on an external source to tell them what to think is making a mistake from the first step. Because all of this stuff, even relying on these teachings to tell you what to think, these are merely suggestions. And I would
They're
challenge
just implications.
anyone to find me a better model. You can find me a better model than this for guidelines of how to live my life. I'm there. Mm-hmm. Never seen anything better in my experience.
Each one of them gives me chicken skin.
Yeah.
Like I'm experiencing it right now. It's like, it's so potent. And but just emphasizing on the challenge of this all, the challenge to be human, challenge to do the work, the challenge just to exist in a human body.
Mm-hmm. And the privilege.
That was that's what I'm going, what I'm going for is we chose this mission and we've forgotten why we're here.
Mm-hmm. And
but
now we're remembering. Yeah.
And it's really exciting. And it fills me up.
Me too.
And it motivates me. And it's scary. It's like, damn, why did I choose this?
Yeah.
But
it's because you're brave.
Yeah, but it's so beautiful. It's so beautiful to discover this stuff, to learn things about myself, to have those, traumatic experiences and those amazing experiences. Like they're all there for us to heal. Yeah, and I'm really grateful to be alive.
And we all have the power to do it.
Yep. I fucking love being alive.
We are perfectly and uniquely suited to heal every aspects of our own lives because that's what you came here to do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's great.
Beautiful. I feel pretty complete here.
I do too. I want to say one thing.
Go for it.
As I might get emotional because this is your last day here.
Oh, yeah.
You're leaving to Seattle
for
a new chapter of your life. And I just wanted to tell you how I've loved deepening our relationship.
Me too.
Over the last year.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's been a special adventure to be on with you. I love you so much.
Love you, Nate. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you.
Okay. Bye, guys.
Bye, everyone. We love you too.